I was standing in the kitchen that Tuesday evening, stirring the pasta sauce and thinking about the small silver necklace I had bought for my sister Madison earlier that week. The house felt warm and cozy with laughter echoing from the living room where my parents were watching their favorite show. The golden light from our old chandelier cast dancing shadows on the walls, and I could smell the garlic bread baking in the oven. I had been planning to surprise Madison with the necklace after dinner, a simple gesture to show her how much I cared. Little did I know that this small act of love would turn my entire world upside down. The sound of heavy footsteps on the stairs made me look up, and there was Madison, her face flushed red with anger. Before I share what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Trust me, you will want to stick around to see how this family drama unfolds, because what happened next changed everything. Madison stormed into the kitchen, clutching an empty jewelry box in her trembling hands. Her usually perfect blonde hair was disheveled, and her blue eyes were blazing with fury. "Where is my grandmother's necklace, Roxanne?" she demanded, her voice shaking with emotion. I nearly dropped the wooden spoon I was holding, completely bewildered by her accusation. "What are you talking about, Madison? What necklace?" I asked, genuinely confused. I had no idea what she was referring to. Madison held up the empty velvet box, pointing to the indent where something had clearly been resting. "Do not play dumb with me. You know exactly what I am talking about. The gold necklace with the heart pendant that belonged to our grandmother. It was right here this morning, and now it is gone," she screamed, her voice carrying throughout the house. The commotion drew our parents from the living room. Harold, my father, appeared first, his graying hair slightly messed from lounging on the couch. Behind him came Patricia, my mother, still wearing her reading glasses and looking concerned. They both took in the scene, Madison clutching the empty box, and me standing there in shock. "What is all this noise about?" Patricia asked, removing her glasses and looking between us. Madison immediately launched into her story. "My grandmother's necklace is missing from my jewelry box. The gold chain with the heart pendant that has the tiny diamond in the center. You remember it, Mom? The one Grandma Rose gave me before she passed away. It is the most precious thing I own, and now it is gone." I watched as my parents' expressions shifted from confusion to concern. Harold rubbed his beard thoughtfully, while Patricia moved closer to Madison, placing a protective arm around her shoulders. "Are you absolutely sure you did not misplace it, sweetheart?" Patricia asked gently. "I am positive I checked everywhere in my room, and it was definitely in this box yesterday. I saw Roxanne looking at it last week when she was in my room. She kept picking it up and examining it, asking about its value and where it came from." Madison's eyes locked onto mine with an accusatory stare. I felt my heart sink as I remembered that moment. I had been admiring the necklace, thinking about how beautiful it was and how much it must mean to Madison. I had asked about it because I genuinely found it lovely, not because I wanted to steal it. But now that innocent moment was being twisted into something sinister. "Madison, I would never take anything from you. Yes, I looked at the necklace because it is beautiful, but I did not take it. I do not even know where you keep your jewelry." I protested, my voice rising with frustration, but I could see the doubt creeping into my parents' eyes. Patricia pursed her lips, a habit she had when she was thinking hard about something. Harold crossed his arms and studied my face as if he was trying to detect lies. "Madison never lies about important things," Patricia said slowly, her words hitting me like a physical blow. "She is very careful with her possessions, especially things that belong to your grandmother." The irony was not lost on me. For the past 18 months, I had been quietly supporting this family financially without anyone knowing the truth. After graduating from college, I had landed a decent marketing job at a local firm, earning about $4,000 a month. While my salary was not enormous, it was enough for me to live comfortably as a single person. However, I soon discovered that my family was struggling more than they let on. My father's construction company had been hit hard by the economic downturn, and his income had been cut by almost 40%. My mother worked part-time at a local boutique, but her earnings barely covered her own expenses. The family was drowning in bills, and Madison's college tuition at the state university was becoming an impossible burden. Without telling anyone, I had started paying Madison's tuition directly to the school, $1,200 every month. I also covered the household utility bills, which averaged about $300 monthly for electricity, water, and internet. Additionally, I had been giving my parents $400 each month for groceries and other necessities, disguising it as bonuses from my company. In total, I was contributing $1,900 every month to keep this family afloat, nearly half of my entire salary. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove an old Honda Civic that I had bought used, and rarely bought anything for myself. Meanwhile, Madison continued her carefree college lifestyle, going out with friends, buying new clothes, and never worrying about money, because she had no idea how precarious our family's financial situation really was. As I stood there being accused of theft by the very sister whose education I was secretly funding, the bitter irony was almost too much to bear. But I could not reveal the truth about the money without humiliating my parents and destroying the family dynamic forever. "Maybe you borrowed it and forgot," Harold suggested, though his tone indicated he was already leaning toward believing Madison. "Dad, I swear to you, I did not take Madison's necklace. I do not even wear gold jewelry. Look at what I have on." I gestured to my simple silver watch and small silver earrings. "Why would I take something that does not even match my style?" But Madison was not backing down. "I trust my own memory more than your denials. That necklace means everything to me. It is all I have left of Grandma Rose, and you know how much she meant to me." The situation escalated quickly from there. Patricia, fully convinced of Madison's version of events, demanded that we search my room immediately. The suggestion felt like a slap in the face, but I had no choice but to agree, hoping that the search would prove my innocence. The four of us marched upstairs to my bedroom, which suddenly felt smaller and more cramped than usual. Patricia began methodically going through my dresser drawers, while Harold checked my closet. Madison stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, watching with satisfaction as my personal space was violated. They pulled out every drawer, shook out every piece of clothing, and even checked inside my pillowcases and under my mattress. My jewelry box, a small wooden one I had owned since high school, was completely emptied and examined. They found nothing, of course, because there was nothing to find. "It is not here," Harold announced after 20 minutes of searching. "She must have hidden it somewhere else." Madison insisted, refusing to accept that maybe, just maybe, she had misplaced the necklace herself. "Check her car, check her purse, check her desk at work if you have to." The demand to search my car felt like the final straw. Standing in my ransacked bedroom, watching my family treat me like a common criminal, I felt something break inside me. These were the people I had been sacrificing for the people I loved enough to give up my own financial security for, and they did not hesitate for a second to believe I was a thief. "This is insane," I said quietly, but my voice was shaking with suppressed anger. "You are treating me like I am some kind of criminal. I am your daughter, your sister. Do you really think so little of me?" Madison's response was swift and cruel. "Honestly, Roxanne, you have always been jealous of the things I have. Remember when we were kids and you broke my favorite doll? You claimed it was an accident, but I always wondered if you did it on purpose because you were angry that Grandma Rose had given it to me and not you." The accusation was so unfair that I actually gasped. The doll incident had happened when I was 8 years old, and it truly had been an accident. I had been playing with Madison trying to be a good big sister when I accidentally knocked the doll off her bed. I had cried for hours because I felt so bad about breaking something she loved. Madison, that was 20 years ago, and it was an accident? How can you bring that up now? I protested, but Patricia was nodding in agreement. Madison has a point, Roxanne. You have always been competitive with your sister. Even as children, you seemed to resent the attention she got. The accusation was completely untrue. If anything, I had always been protective of Madison, helping her with homework, driving her places when she needed transportation, and supporting her dreams. But somehow, in this moment of crisis, my entire history with my family was being rewritten to cast me as the villain. Harold remained silent, but his silence spoke volumes. He was not defending me, which meant he was already convinced of my guilt. The 3 people I loved most in the world were united against me, and there was nothing I could say to change their minds. Madison continued, her performance tears now streaming down her face. That necklace is irreplaceable. When Grandma Rose was dying, she specifically asked that I have it because she said I reminded her of herself when she was young. It is not just jewelry, it is a connection to her memory. How could you take something so precious from me? The emotional manipulation was masterful, and I could see it working on our parents. Patricia wrapped Madison in a hug while shooting accusatory glances at me. Harold shook his head in disappointment, as if he was already grieving the daughter he thought he had raised. I want it back by tomorrow morning, Patricia announced, her voice taking on the authoritative tone she had used when we were children and had misbehaved. If that necklace is not returned by 8 a.m. tomorrow, you will need to find somewhere else to live. We cannot have someone in this house who steals from family members. The words hit me like a physical blow. Harold nodded in agreement, sealing my fate. Your mother is right, Roxanne. Family means trust, and if we cannot trust you, then you cannot live here anymore. I looked at each of their faces, searching for any sign that they might reconsider, that they might give me the benefit of the doubt. But I saw only disappointment, anger, and certainty in their judgment. Madison's tears had convinced them completely, and my 25 years of being a loving daughter and sister counted for nothing. You are calling me a thief? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Your own daughter. After everything I have done for this family? What have you done for this family? Madison snapped. You live here rent-free, eat our food, and apparently steal our possessions. Maybe it is time you learn to support yourself like an adult. The irony of her words was so painful that I almost laughed. If only she knew that her carefree college experience was funded entirely by the sister she was now trying to destroy. If only any of them knew the sacrifices I had made to keep this family from falling apart financially. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, knowing that I would have to leave in the morning. I had no way to prove my innocence because I had not taken the necklace. The truth, whatever it was, would have to surface on its own. But I was done being the family scapegoat, and I was definitely done supporting people who thought so little of me. I woke up before dawn the next morning, my stomach churning with a mixture of heartbreak and determination. I had barely slept, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling and trying to process the fact that my own family had chosen to believe the worst about me without a moment's hesitation. As I quietly packed my belongings into 2 large suitcases, I kept hoping that someone would knock on my door and apologize, admit they had made a terrible mistake, and beg me to stay. But that knock never came. Around 6:30 in the morning, as I was zipping up my second suitcase, I heard Madison's voice drifting up from downstairs. She was talking on her phone, and something about her tone made me freeze and listen more carefully. I crept to my bedroom door and opened it just a crack, straining to hear her conversation. It worked perfectly. Stephanie. Madison was saying, her voice filled with satisfaction. I cannot believe how easy it was to convince them. My blood ran cold as I pressed my ear closer to the door. On the other end of the line, I could hear her friend Stephanie asking something, but I could not make out the exact words. Where did I actually put the necklace? Madison repeated the question with a laugh that made my stomach turn. It is in my car in the glove compartment. She would never think to look there, and neither would Mom and Dad. The whole point was to get her out of the house, not to actually lose the necklace. I had to grip the doorframe to keep myself from falling. My own sister had orchestrated this entire scenario to get me kicked out of our family home. The necklace was safe hidden in her car, where she had put it herself, and she had deliberately accused me of theft, knowing that I was innocent. She is always acting like she is better than me. Madison continued, her voice dripping with resentment. Always giving me advice, always trying to be the responsible one, always making me feel like I am not good enough. Well, now she is gone, and I do not have to deal with her judgment anymore. The conversation continued, but I could not bear to hear any more. I sank down onto my bed, my hands shaking, as the full scope of my sister's betrayal sank in. She had not just falsely accused me of theft. She had deliberately destroyed our family relationships and gotten me kicked out of my childhood home because she resented my presence in her life. In that moment of devastating clarity, I realized that I had the power to teach all of them a lesson they would never forget. Madison thought she was so clever getting rid of the sister who supposedly cramped her style, but she had no idea that the sister she had just banished was the only reason her comfortable lifestyle was possible. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. One by one, I canceled every automatic payment I had set up for my family. The $1,200 monthly payment to Madison's university was canceled immediately. The automatic transfer for the utility bills was stopped. The monthly $400 transfer for groceries and household expenses was terminated. As I completed each cancellation, I felt a mixture of sadness and liberation. Sad because I truly had loved supporting my family and making their lives easier, but liberated because I was finally free from the burden of caring for people who did not appreciate or even acknowledge my sacrifices. I sent a brief email to the landlord, informing him that I would no longer be contributing to the monthly rent payments. I canceled the insurance policy I had been paying on my father's truck. I even canceled the premium cable package I had been secretly funding for my parents' entertainment. Within 15 minutes, I had eliminated every financial support I had been providing to my family. They had no idea that their comfortable lifestyle was about to come crashing down around them, and Madison had no clue that her righteous indignation was about to cost her everything. I finished packing my belongings and loaded them into my Honda Civic. As I drove away from the house where I had grown up, I felt a strange sense of peace. I was hurt, certainly, but I was also free from the burden of supporting people who clearly did not value me. I drove straight to my best friend, Sarah's apartment. Sarah had been my roommate during college, and she had always told me that I was too generous with my family. When I explained what had happened, she was furious on my behalf. Your family does not deserve you, Sarah said, helping me carry my suitcases into her spare bedroom. I never liked the way they took you for granted, and this proves that I was right to be concerned. For the first time in 18 months, I had money that was truly my own. Without the $1,900 monthly drain of supporting my family, my bank account began to grow quickly. I bought myself new clothes, something I had not done in over a year. I booked a weekend getaway with Sarah to a spa resort using money that would have gone to Madison's tuition. The freedom was intoxicating. No more worrying about whether my family could pay their bills. No more carefully budgeting every dollar to make sure I could cover both my own expenses and theirs. No more making sacrifices that no one even knew about, let alone appreciated. I threw myself into my work with renewed energy, no longer distracted by family financial concerns. My performance improved, and within a month, my supervisor mentioned the possibility of a promotion and a raise. For the first time since college, I was building a life that was entirely my own. The consequences of my decision began manifesting much more quickly than I had anticipated. The first sign of trouble came exactly 1 week after I had moved out, when Madison received an official notice from her university, stating that her tuition payment was overdue. The school's automated system had tried to process the monthly payment and had been declined due to insufficient funds in the account. I learned about this through Sarah, who heard it from her friend Emma, who happened to work in the university's financial aid office. According to Emma, Madison had stormed into the office demanding to know why her tuition had not been automatically paid, insisting that there must be some mistake in their system. The girls seemed genuinely confused, Emma had told Sarah. She kept saying that someone else was supposed to be handling the payments, but she could not provide any documentation or explain who was paying her tuition. We had to inform her that if the payment was not received within 10 days, she would be dropped from all her classes. Around the same time, my parents began experiencing their own financial reality check. The electricity was shut off first, followed by the water service 3 days later. The internet and cable were disconnected by the end of the week. Suddenly, the household that had been running smoothly for 18 months was plunged into chaos. Patricia called the utility companies confused and embarrassed, trying to understand why services that had been automatically paid for months were suddenly in arrears. The customer service representatives explained that the automatic payment arrangement had been canceled by the account holder, but they could not provide details about who had been making the payments due to privacy policies. Meanwhile, Harold discovered that several of his bills, including his truck insurance and the supplemental health insurance policy I had been covering, had been canceled. When he called his insurance agent to ask why his payments had been declined, he was told that the payment method on file was no longer valid. The family's comfortable lifestyle began to crumble rapidly. Without the extra $400 per month I had been providing for groceries and household expenses, they found themselves unable to afford basic necessities. Patricia had to ask for extra hours at the boutique where she worked, while Harold scrambled to find additional construction projects to make up for the shortfall. But it was Madison who suffered the most dramatic consequences. 2 weeks after I left, she received a final notice from the university that she would be officially withdrawn from all her classes if her tuition balance was not paid in full immediately. The total amount owed had ballooned to over $2,000 with late fees and penalties. Desperate and panicked, Madison finally confessed the truth about the necklace to our parents. She broke down crying, admitting that she had hidden the necklace in her car and had falsely accused me of theft because she wanted me out of the house. She claimed that she had been feeling suffocated by my presence and had acted impulsively out of jealousy and resentment. Patricia was horrified when she learned the truth. Harold was furious, but their anger at Madison was quickly overshadowed by the realization that they had destroyed their relationship with the daughter who had been secretly supporting them for over a year. My mother was the first to call me, her voice thick with tears and shame. "Roxanne, sweetheart, we made a terrible mistake. Madison told us the truth about the necklace. We should never have doubted you. Please, please come home. We need to talk and figure out how to fix this." I listened to her pleading for several minutes before responding calmly. "Mom, some bridges cannot be rebuilt once they are burned. You chose to believe that I was a thief rather than trust the daughter who had never given you any reason to doubt her character." Harold called next, his usually strong voice shaking with emotion. "Princess, I know we messed up badly. We should have trusted you. You have always been the responsible one, the one we could count on. I do not know how we let Madison manipulate us like that. Dad, you did not let Madison manipulate you. You chose to believe her over me because it was easier than thinking critically about the situation. You have been taking money from me for 18 months without even bothering to ask where it was coming from. When Madison finally called, her apology was predictably self-centered. Roxanne, I am really sorry about the necklace thing, but you have to understand how emotional I get sometimes. I never meant for things to go this far. I had no idea you were paying for my tuition and stuff. Can you please just help us out until we figure things out? Madison, you accused me of being a thief and had me thrown out of my childhood home because you were jealous of my presence in your life. The fact that you are now asking me to resume financially supporting you proves that you still do not understand the magnitude of what you did. I explained to each of them that while I might eventually be willing to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect, I would not be resuming any financial support. They had 6 months to figure out their own financial situation, and after that, any relationship we had would be based on genuine appreciation rather than economic dependence. The irony was not lost on me that the family member they had branded as selfish and untrustworthy was the very person who had been selflessly supporting them all along. Madison, the sister they had rallied around and defended, had not only lied to them, but had been completely oblivious to the sacrifices being made on her behalf. 6 months later, I was thriving in ways I had never imagined possible. With an extra $1,900 per month to invest in myself, I had been able to take professional development courses that led to a promotion and a significant salary increase. I moved into a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment in the downtown area, bought myself a reliable new car, and even started building a savings account for the first time since college. My family, meanwhile, had been forced to confront their financial reality without my safety net. Harold picked up extra construction jobs and started a small handyman business on weekends. Patricia increased her hours at the boutique and started selling handmade jewelry online. Madison was forced to drop out of college and take a full-time job at a local restaurant while she saved money to eventually return to school on her own terms. The experience taught them valuable lessons about financial responsibility, the importance of honest communication, and the danger of taking family members for granted. More importantly, it taught me that love without respect is not really love at all, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their irresponsible behavior. I learned that boundaries are not cruel. They are necessary for maintaining healthy relationships and self-respect. I discovered that it is possible to love your family while refusing to sacrifice your own well-being for their comfort. And I realized that sometimes the people closest to us take our sacrifices for granted, precisely because we make those sacrifices invisibly and without acknowledgement. The truth, as it always does, eventually surfaced completely. My family learned to value contributions rather than taking them for granted, but by then, the dynamic had fundamentally changed. I had learned to value myself enough not to accept being treated as less than I was worth. If you are supporting someone who does not value your sacrifice, ask yourself, are you helping them grow, or are you enabling them to take advantage of your kindness? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back and let people experience the natural consequences of their choices. What do you think about Madison's actions? Have you ever been in a situation where family members took your support for granted? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to like this video if it resonated with you. Please subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth, and share this with anyone who might need to hear about the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worth is not determined by how much you sacrifice for others, but by how much you value yourself.